Yeah, so what do you call it? Do you call it fall or do you call it autumn? Yeah, no, autumn. Autumnal equinox, yes. Stonehenge, all that, yes. All right, happy fall. Some people. Last day of summer today. Fall, autumnal equinox happens, before midnight tonight, and then we're into officially fall of 2022. How quickly the summer has gone. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 35 of Niagara 411 with Lee Sterry. We are fueled by Gale Bars, powered by WeeStreem, also supported by Performance Heating and Air, as well as Verge Insurance Group. We are ensconced, as usual, in this bodacious pubbery known as Fiddler's Whorehouse on Ontario Street in downtown St. Catharines. And Shushi is going to have a new home. Remember that name? Well, we'll remind you. Come on in, and we'll get this underway. We're going to take care of some old business like we usually do before we get into new business, and keeping in mind that this show is always open to you at any time. And the reason I said we're going to take care of some old business is it's sort of in sync with that concept, and we're going to give you a prime example of ways that you can interact with your community and participate in the program without feeling that you're swaying from a topic or that you're not welcome to be here and like all that kind of stuff. So that's where we're going to start. And we're going to start in about 30 seconds after we give credit where credit is due to our supporters. So we'll be right back. Did I say Snooshy? It's Smooshy, isn't it? The walrus name is Smooshy for Marineland?
I think it's Smooshy.
Smooshy.
The one at the heart of all the controversy and the Feulled demers.
I just hope I didn't say sushi. That would turn into a whole different conversation. Oh gosh, we missed last week. And we're sorry about that because we know some people tune in and say, hey, where did the show go? Well, sometimes life gets in the way. As they say, life is what happens when you're making plans to do other things. And life gets in the way, business gets in the way, livelihoods get in the way. Kevin and WeeStreem involved in a huge conference taking place in Toronto. So it was a multi-day thing that took them off the grid here in Niagara. We'll talk about that later. Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Jack, co-founder of WeeStreem, Canada's premier streaming company, and of course co-founder of that company, as well as executive producer of this program. And feels like it's been forever, Kevin, since I've seen you.
Yeah, it's been a long time. And I had 3 days there. The conference we were doing was for Community Living Ontario.
Okay.
Always an opportunity to meet some and engage with some incredible people and some truly kind-hearted people, both administratively and from the public as well. So
awesome.
We enjoyed our time up there in old stopping grounds of Richmond Hill and Markham. It looks nothing like it did when I lived there in late 90s. Nothing
ever looks like it used to look.
Including me.
Discovered that over and over and over again. That's one of the things, your parents say this to you when you're a kid. They say a couple of things that you just can't wrap your head around. Things are different now. So that's the one thing. I don't know, how are things different? And the other thing is, as you get older, time goes faster. And as a kid, you're trying to wrap your head around that concept because time doesn't really go faster, but it does. It really does. All right, Kevin, as I was mentioning coming in from the outside office there was a couple of weeks ago when we did this show, just shortly after I got back from the UK. We did a story, and the reason we did the story is because there was a police release to all media stating the fact that there was a 14-year-old girl from Niagara missing. That was the story. That was it. Our goal on Niagara 411 Live with Sterry was just to get the story out there, as it was on Niagara 411 with Nick. Hi, Nick. Thanks again for supporting the program. And Nick's mom, hi. Otherwise, so the story came from the Niagara Regional Police Service, and we talked to Layla's mom, Jessica, and that was really the extent of the conversation, Kevin, as the fact that she didn't know where her daughter was. The police didn't know where her daughter was, and really during that conversation, help enlighten me if there's something I'm missing. We didn't really talk a lot about anybody or anything, simply that this girl was essentially missing, correct? Okay, so let's flash forward to the end of the program. I am actually, to be perfectly honest, I'm having a little nap at home, and it was just kind of chilling a little bit. My phone rings, and it's Kevin, because I had been reached out to via email by Layla's dad, and he's in British Columbia. He was all upset the fact that we'd had this girl's mother on when she was supposedly ingenuous, etc. And we're saying, like, well, hey man, anybody can come on the program that they want to come on, and you could have come on and talked to us about it. And he said, oh, I didn't know that. Well, we say every single week that at any time, and this goes to you watching right now, at any single time, you can click on the link at the bottom of the post on the Facebook feed that you are watching and join the program in real time. You don't have to sit there being frustrated. You don't have to sit there and like spew your own venom and be all like wound up. Call us and talk to us. Click in and talk to us. That's what we're here for. And the comments. It was actually a really good piece for our part because it was well viewed and it was interacted with online via comments, etc. But those of you who were putting comments up on this story, you could have just as easily at the time clicked on and come in and given us your opinion. We're not in the business of creating public opinion. We were in the business on that particular item, Kevin, of finding this girl. Totally, that's it. Niagara Regional Police Service News, as Kevin put up there, that's the update, and that is the best end of the story we could have expected. Searching for missing 14-year-old female. Update 1 located. Missing person Layla Travers has been located. The NRPS would like to thank the public and media for their assistance with this matter. We have removed her photo from the original media release and our social media for her privacy. We would ask the public and media to consider doing the same. And of course, we did. But that's a shot of the original show from a couple Fridays ago. And we got all kinds of feedback from people saying, how could you have this woman on the air when she's such and such? Then the other side says, you're going to have this guy on and he's such and such. Well, I don't know that we're having any guy on. Kevin and I both chatted with Layla's dad and said, hey, if you want to come on the show, come on the show. It's your nickel, that's what the show's open for. And I guess, Kevin, this is where we've been trying to take this show, and new concepts take a while to gain traction. and get their feet under them before people feel comfortable, I guess, dealing with the new paradigm. But the paradigm did shift with this program. Instead of you needing to make an anonymous comment where it says comment, you don't have to like, or you can frown, or you comment and share it. Instead of just doing that, you can click on the link, and you can do so in real time, in the moment, while the thought is on your mind. Whatever's on your mind, get it off your chest, whatever it is. And when you've got a story like this, don't accuse us of not having somebody on. If you don't come on and you've got something to say, it's your bad, not mine. If you got something to say, if you're pissed off, don't be pissed off at me for not having the other side on. You come on. If you don't come on, be PO'd it yourself. Not me.
Now, that's it. I just want to add to the conversation.
It's just, you try to, how many times do I have to tell you to clean up your room? How many times do I have to tell you to eat your peas? How many times do I tell you that broccoli is okay? How many times do we have to say you're free to come on the program? How many times does it take? Kevin, over to you.
You and I both have professional broadcasting records. I mean, you worked in every radio job in every market, right, coast to coast in this country.
Yeah, I can't hold a job.
I've got 15 years professional broadcast experience where we are governed by the CRTC and ethical codes. I didn't like being accused online of having somebody on and letting him spew hate about an individual when we haven't done that.
We haven't even had him on.
I know, and we didn't invite him on. We just said the show's open to anybody. And trust me, if somebody came on this show, and whether it was pertaining to this man or something else, and the sole purpose of the conversation was to disparage or slander somebody, we would just cut that conversation off.
We don't do that. We're not in the business of pointing fingers and say, you're a bad person.
Yeah, so
you're a bad person. We don't do that.
Being accused of letting somebody on for the sole purpose of slandering somebody when it hasn't happened yet is just like, I don't really need to defend myself for not doing something that hasn't yet occurred.
Somebody told somebody that told somebody else that, hey, they're having this guy in the air and how dare you do that? We haven't done anything. We haven't reached out.
Didn't do anything.
No,
we told people the same thing that you're telling them, Lee, is that the show is wide open, and if you're looking for that link, it's in the description. There should also be a comment there as well with that Zoom link. I'll give you the number. It's 905-411-0411. Pretty easy to remember.
And if you're upset because your point of view has not been aired on this program, it's your fault. You air the damn position. You own the position. I'm not going to bite your head off. It's like, okay, well, thanks for your perspective. Welcome to the show. Happy to have you. And come back and join us again soon. But if you're complaining about content of the program and you want to change the content of the program, you change it. Don't rag on me for missing the boat after the ship has sailed.
But, I mean, honestly, we just want to talk to people of Niagara. I find the people stories, the human stories, so much more truthful than legacy or mainstream media, And the perfect example is, you talk to the head of the Nurse Association about how the nurses are doing. I want to talk to a nurse. The nurse will tell me how the nurses are doing.
Yes, thank you, yes. And that's the I guess, the trap that so-called, I hate this phrase, but because I was part of it, as was Kevin for so long, mainstream media. I guess that's the trap that we fall into when we're in that so-called mainstream, is the fact that the head of the Nurses Association, the head of the teachers union, the mouthpiece, the media mouthpiece for any organization, they're easy gets. They'll come on and talk to you anytime you want. They're easy gets. Because that's what they're paid to do. But you, the feet on the street, the person in the factories, the person in the hospitals, the workaday people that are trying to make ends meet and buy groceries and buy gas and pay your utilities all in the same month and still have maybe less month left over at the end of the money. Those are the stories. Those are the people that we prefer to talk to. The people that don't get paid to talk to the media, if you will. And yeah, I was passionate a few minutes ago, but you know what? People don't respond to people that are not passionate about what they do. If you're going to be passionate about what you do, you got to suffer, as they say, suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, whether it is nobler, etc. But, you know, just don't piss in my boot and tell me it's raining, because I'm a little smarter than that. And, you know, sometimes, although I didn't want to give him credit, so is Kevin. Smooshy,
the smooshy, yeah. I mean, this is a huge update.
Let's do the smooster. This news came out yesterday, and after a more than decade-long battle, two things have happened. The two walruses, Smooshy and Smooshy's offspring, Koyuka, something of that nature. I'm probably screwing that name up too, but it has been established that they are going to have a new home where they can spend a time and spend their lives in the company of their own kind, which is just absolutely spectacular. And I know there's one person that will be thrilled for sure, and that is Natalie Bibeau. Has been on this program numerous times. She won an award, numerous awards actually, for her film entitled The Walrus and the Whisperer. So these are the two walruses that were, Smooshy mainly, the subject of that film, and of course the longtime activist, but one-time trainer, 10 or so more years with Marineland, Feulled, the driving force. He was the whisperer of The Walrus and the Whisperer. At the same time that Marineland has come to finality with Smooshy and her offspring is the fact that they have settled amicably the various suits that had been filed over the years between Marineland and Mr. Demers. And to Phil, we're just absolutely pleased, because this has been a really tough ride for him. He still has some probably emotional issues to deal with, because it's been such a long, drawn-out and stressful process for him. And he's been with us a couple of times as well. But this is a landmark week, because after that decade-long legal battle, former Marineland trainer Phil Demers was able to see his beloved walrus Smooshy this week after the Niagara Falls, Ontario tourist attraction dropped its $1.5 million lawsuit against the employee. Demers, animal rights activist, whistleblower, is still banned from Marineland. Well, that's not surprising, but was allowed inside the park on Wednesday for a reunion with Smooshy. The first time he had seen her in a decade, he said, after news emerged that the legal issues were resolved. Fascinating and fabulous, and boy, it's almost like you can hear the community make a collective sigh. It's like, thank you. Cooler minds prevailed, and there's one of the lovely critters right there. And so they will have as we understand it now, look as I might, Kevin, I did not see a location, a new home stipulated where they were. And it may have been because they did not want any attention or undue attention paid to the new location where these animals were going.
Yeah, they just want rehoused as soon as possible.
Rehoused, yeah.
I do find this excerpt, though, from their press release to be particularly telling as to the direction of Marineland, especially since the passing of John Holler.
Mr. Demers acknowledges Marineland's evolution towards education, conservation, and research, and its commitment to enhanced animal care, which is something that would have never been in quotes a few years ago, prior to Mr. Holler's passing. They are trying desperately to rebrand their brand, and if that works, Koyuk, I said Koyuka, Koyuk was born in June 2021, but the two have been kept apart since Koyuk's birth. Anyway, since Mr. Holler's passing, and he was a great citizen of Niagara, whether you agree with his business acumen or his business perspective or his business in general or in specific, he gave a lot to Niagara, And it's just that his vision came to a point where its relevance had passed. And it was really tough for him, I think, to let go of that, which created some of the issues that we're in right now. So not wanting to disparage his memory or his contribution to Niagara in any way, shape, or form, but time has moved on, and gladly, happily, that's been resolved this week. So that's great. Smooshy, have a nice life. Mr. Demers, Phil, I hope you can now take a huge breath and go through the healing process, which I know is not yet complete for you, because it's been quite a ride for you. And Natalie Bibeau, director and creator of that movie, Walrus and the Whistleblower, thank you for your part in all of this, and sort of a kumbaya moment this week for all things to do with, well, not maybe all things, but the big things to do with Marineland. Kevin, the other big event, which we obviously don't have to spend too much time on because the world media has spent hundreds and hundreds of hours on the final farewell to Queen Elizabeth II. The end of the second Elizabethan era was on Monday, and those long marches and just the pomp and circumstance and everything that had such a meaning to that event. And even if you're not a monarchist or a royalist, you had to recognize it as an incredibly historical event, one of the biggest historical events on the planet's history, because of how long this monarch served and the monarchs before her. And considering that my wife and I were there, and by there I mean like actually in the Windsor Castle grounds where all of those shots that you saw over the last week or so took place. Incredibly poignant, the history and the number of reigns that took place over like since 1066. I guess you would term 1066 the beginning of the monarchy, when William the Conqueror, who was actually French, he was built Windsor, built Buckingham, built the Tower of London, built all these castles as he conquered England, and he was the actual first king of what he ended up forming, which was the United Kingdom, and then it all goes on and on and on from there. The thing I was struck by, Kevin, was the little steps and how synchronized all these people, including the horses, were throughout the procession, especially around Windsor Castle. Did you get my pics that I sent? I don't know, of what they call the longest walk or the longest mile. I really think there they call it the long walk, which is which is where the hearse finally rolled in with that massive procession of people to the rear entrance of Windsor Castle, where the Queen was laid to rest later that day. There's my picture when we were standing with our backs toward the gates to the rear of Windsor Castle. Now, Kevin, I don't know, we don't have a pointer or anything, but about halfway, you see where the sunlight part is at the end of that, at the end of the trees? Okay, if you go past up the hill where that sunlight is, there's a major highway way up there, and that is where the so-called longest walk begins. It's actually 3 miles from that spot to the gates of Windsor Castle. Now, prior, in the shade, just over the heads of those people you see in the foreground, it looks like there's a little path. Can you zoom in on that just a little bit, Kevin? I don't know what you can do. Right there is a little trail. It's actually bigger than a trail. It's actually a driveway. And if you go through those trees, you go to where William and Kate live or lived. They'll be moving, but their country home is down that road to the left. And back to the lights at the end of the road, right there in the light where the highway crosses, if you go across the highway, it's not actually in the park at Windsor, but if you go across the highway and turn to your left, is the 1,600-acre estate of Sir Elton John. That's where he lives. And then the other shot was from exactly the other direction, and you saw these gates when the Queen went through, which was the gates with the gold spears on top, whatever you call them.
Oh, is this the one
right
here?
There? Yeah, that
yeah.
one.
Okay, so that's you turned 180
That's
degrees.
me turned 180 degrees.
Okay,
from
and how does it relate to what we're seeing in this video?
the final. That is that's a march actually in London, I think, or it's down.
Okay, so this would have been more towards the end where she wrapped up?
No, at the beginning.
Okay.
More near the beginning. The end was Windsor, right? Where I just showed you. That's where because she actually was. They actually had the ceremony. They had one ceremony at Westminster Abbey, which we were in as well. And then when they brought her casket in on this march, this was the march up that the longest walk. It went to St. George's Chapel, which is on the grounds of Windsor Castle, which we also had a chance to go through, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'll tell you, was and I mean, you could see him right there. Was very disappointed to see Andrew there, just given his troubles. Like, honestly, I'm sitting there looking from the other side of the world, going, "Oh, okay." And look who's, I mean, I know he's a relative, but okay. So you groom underage women and prostitute them for sex, and I'm just supposed to. Hey, Andrew, what's been going on?
And to put the icing on top of that cake, he was the Queen's favorite. So and was known, although this is probably inappropriate, he was known as a very young guy as Randy Andy. That's what he was known as around social circles.
I mean, honestly, I thought it
when
was
he was a younger man.
I thought it was a total affront to the victims. I thought it just showed a complete lack of understanding of the impact of somebody's actions to be welcomed back. I mean, I'm just being honest. That's what I thought. Every single time I see his face, all I think about is how many 13 and 14-year-old girls did you prostitute?
Now, I thought about that too, and it was obviously never mentioned during any of the broadcasts. I haven't had this conversation with anybody in a public forum. Private forums, yes, because you kind of wonder. And since you brought it up, you and I guess, would be the only two people that would think, gee, is that, like, at least we think it out loud, is that really the right way to go? And it was even announced that he was going to be the caregiver for her coveted corgis. He's looking after the dog because he was one of the people that kind of got her started in looking after corgis in the first place. So, yes, I mean,
the fact that he's still allowed to walk free is surprising.
Yeah. Well, we don't know what's gone on behind the scenes.
Well, we do know that a big check was cut, right? We do know that there was a settlement that was out of court. I mean, we know all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then he gave that terrible interview to try and claim his innocence, which only further shoved his loafer down his throat.
Yeah.
And trust me, I think the whole time I sat there and I see him in the background, I'm going, are you kidding me? Why do I have to watch this guy?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I totally, it didn't bother me as much because I guess I got a tough enough skin and, the Queen is the Queen and she loved the guy unconditionally as grandmothers do. Or mothers do, and it's just, I guess it's just family, irrespective of what your family member does right or what your family member does wrong. And believe me, I'm not minimizing what you're talking about because it's a huge deal. But family is hard to break apart, really. Politically, not so much, but emotionally, family is difficult to break apart, and I think that's probably. You can bet, Kevin, that this was highly debated in the circles of propriety. Oh, sorry about that.
That was me.
Yeah, just another fan.
So, Lee, where I want to go here is, gosh, is this so didn't Trudeau get himself into a little bit of trouble over there, and people are maybe unfairly criticizing him?
Oh.
And is this the video, the Bohemian Rhapsody? Is that what he's saying?
Yeah.
So I'll pull it up here because I've got a bit of a stance on this. I'd like to hear your opinion as well, but it goes...
Okay, well, you tell the story, and then we'll talk about opinions.
I don't know the entire story. People just came to me and said, have you seen that video yet? And I guess it's Justin Trudeau, who was over there with his wife, Sophie, and they were there representing Canada at the funeral, but I guess
they were
maybe
part
what,
of the
night before or something?
Part of the Canadian delegation was a very famous Order of Canada member, I do believe, Canadian pianist and composer. So, as one would do after you go, you're there on a function. You're there to go to a conference or a convention, or you've got 2 or 3 days of meetings. You check into the hotel. You go through a long day of protocols and stuff, and everybody says, "Hey, let's go down to the bar and have a drink." Wow. How shocking is that? Okay, maybe not so shocking. So, okay, yeah, let's go down for a drink. So, you've got one of the greatest pianists that ever lived. He's a Canadian, and you're
You're talking about the piano player, right?
Yeah.
Because some people would think you were talking about Trudeau there.
No.
One of the biggest... Oh, you said pianist. Okay, continue.
That's an old joke. Begins to play the piano like he's a piano bar crooner, whatever. And he's playing a section of a Bohemian Rhapsody by the group Queen. People start to sing along. As I understand it, and also as I understand it, the Prime Minister decides, perish the thought, to have a little fun. And sings a bit.
And this is what got leaked?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
He's a 40-something-year-old guy. And some would argue he's not just a guy, he's the Prime Minister. Well, yes, that is true. However, isn't it possible to be a Prime Minister and also have a good time every now and then? Let your beautiful hair down. Everybody knows he has nice hair. Why can't he let it down every now and then and have a good time? And that's my opinion.
And you know what? I think most people agree, but here's where I'm going with this, Lee. And I hearken back to Jack Nicholson, Few Good Men, and You Can't Handle the Truth. Yes. Okay? And here's what it is. Here's where we are as a society, and I mean this sincerely, is we collectively all want our heads of state, our politicians, even our CEOs, to be human. We want them just to speak not like robots.
Talk to me like a person.
Talk to me like a person.
Talk to me like, be a real person.
And you know what?
When it happens,
you can't handle it.
No.
Because when it happens, there's outrage.
Yeah.
So while on one side we're telling ourselves, this is what we want. We don't want politicians that just give robotic canned answers. Why can't you just be a human? Because as soon as they're a human for a second, you're can't handle
on.
it.
You're pounced on.
And it's not Trudeau. Trudeau gets pounced on, but it's the people. You can't handle it. You can't handle somebody being true.
No.
Because they get pounced on.
The minute you step outside the box, the minute you step outside the definition of the parameters that you have placed on that role, that you have placed on that position, The minute somebody steps outside that, it's like, ooh, I don't know. That's not right. That's not right. He's spending all our money and he's singing in a piano bar. Okay.
And?
So he's not supposed to sleep 8 hours a day because, well, he's not working when he's doing that.
Exactly. You can't handle people being human, right?
Yeah.
You can't handle the truth.
I was asked numerous times over the year, to go to that point, I was asked numerous times over the years, because when you're in the media business, a lot of organizations or a lot of political parties, et cetera, will approach you because you already have some sort of brand recognition in a community, and they would say, well, why don't you should run for politics? And I've thought about it a couple of times, but I've never done it because of that exact line right there. I'd get elected once, maybe, but it would never happen again because of that exact mantra right there. You elect somebody because of something you're attracted to about that person. Could be physical, could be emotional, could be on the platform, could be on the issues. I don't know, for whatever reason. And then once they start to actually do what they said they were going to do, or be what they're going to be, or spend something you don't like or whatever, then all of a sudden you're done, because you can't handle the truth. That is exactly right, Kevin. And I don't think you and I have ever agreed on anything so much more than that. Because, you've got to, and the Queen, I have to, some of the most interesting coverage from the Queen's passing up to the day of her internment. Some of the most interesting pieces that were done were her in real moments, when she was interacting with heads of state from other countries, or her husband or something, and she was cracking a joke, or like being human while still being the Queen. And those are the things that people like to see after they're dead. Why do they not want to see them when they're alive? Isn't that a bit of a twisted perspective? And again, I'm not banging the drum for the Liberals. I'm not banging the drum for Trudeau. But because the guy he's in a T-shirt with some people at the end of a long day, having a scotch and singing Bohemian Rhapsody. So what? Look at what Bill Clinton got away with and was reelected again. Because everybody said, Bill's been chasing skirts since he was 12. Doesn't make him a bad president.
Now, Lee, something else I think both you and I would agree on is the viability of this
monarchy.
We would disagree on that. We would agree on the viability of, what is this now? It's going to be a fast ferry. It's going to be a rocket ship. It's a hovercraft. How are we going to get people across the lake now?
Oh, we're switching gears. I don't get it. What was it? It was the 1980s, I do believe, that a group had this great idea, and a lot of us that were living here thought it was a great idea too. I think it was the 80s, wasn't it?
There's been a couple over the years.
Yeah, maybe even earlier than that was the first one.
Yeah, there was another one in the early 2000s.
A plan to have a hovercraft from the south of Lake Ontario, probably Port Dalhousie, directly across to Toronto. Ooh, what a concept. Well, it's been tried. It's been done, and it failed miserably. It was a terrible. It was like one of the grand fails of all time.
Yeah, that was the one, and then there was another one, Lee, in like the early 2000s. That was not a hovercraft. It was supposed to be, almost like a fast ferry. I think that's how they sold it. It was a fast ferry.
Yes, it wasn't the hovercraft. Yeah, there was the first hovercraft thing. Then there was that you're talking about, and now we're back to the hovercraft concept. But there was never enough. It never had enough juice behind the business plan to support it. It isn't that desirable for people to spend that kind of money. Sure, people would love to be able to hop on it, for a $2 bus token, but that's not going to happen. And if you really want to get to Toronto in a hurry now, you can fly from the Niagara Regional Airport in St. Catharines, and you're in Toronto at an airport, you've got access to everything in 20 minutes or less.
And I think both you and I are on the same page here in saying that I wish them all the best. If it were successful, it would be amazing if it had a long-term business vision. But it seems that, they have an expected number of riders, and they only ever get to about 50% of that, and then it folds after a season. This would be amazing. Who hasn't wished that they could just get to Toronto in 30 minutes instead of an hour and a half, or God forbid it's rush hour?
But it's all, it has to be cost effective for them to be able to continue to run it, and B, it's got to be affordable for the people that want to take it. So far, those two things haven't meshed.
And I hope they do. I hope this company somehow has that magic formula figured out, and it's going to be viable from now for years to come. I think it would be a boon for us in Niagara, because remember, it's not just us getting to Toronto; it's Toronto getting to us.
True.
And if you can fill that boat both going both ways, it's just a win-win.
We were talking about Elton John a little while ago. Elton John performed just recently in Toronto to a very, very appreciative crowd, and it was a great concert and all the rest of it. However, I did see a lot of online comments that it took me 2 hours to get out of the parking lot of the venue where he was performing, and B, it then took me 3 hours on the highway to get back to Niagara. C, I spent like $100 a ticket or whatever it is. Was this worth it? To see an entertainer from the 70s? Yeah, Elton John's a big guy. It wouldn't have been worth it for me. So in this situation, you buy the ticket, you hop on the hovercraft, you take a cab, you're there, and you do the same thing on the way back. But what kind of a route do they have? How many times is it going? What times is it? It's not as convenient as having... And the other thing, Kevin, is that we're supposed to have GO train service here in Niagara on a regular basis in the not too distant future. Now that might be pie in the sky thinking, because we've been talking about it for years and it hasn't happened except on weekends in the summer and blah blah. But how is the hovercraft going to compete with, for example, driving to Burlington, taking the GO train to the station, and then a cab to the or a subway or whatever to the concert? Right now, the company plans to make up to 48, to go to my point, the company plans to make up to 48 lake crossings per day using 2 vessels, the Griffin BHT 130 and the BHT 150 model hovercrafts. Up to 180 passengers will be permitted on board on each journey. The vehicles will not be permitted on the craft. The first of their kind in North America, the hovercraft vessels are weatherproof, the company says, and can travel over water, land, and ice. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, no outdoor seating, so you're going to be enclosed the whole time.
Yeah.
Even on a nice summer day.
You're not going to get splashed with stuff. Okay.
Yeah, hey, the boat is what the boat is.
The crafts hover on a cushion of air above the water, which we already know. So they leave no wake or wash, the release said, adding the noise decibel omitted by the machines is less than a household dishwasher. General manager and former... Oh, yeah, pinball is part of this. I'd forgotten about that. General manager and former player for the Argos, Pinball Clemens, has signed onto the project, sitting on Ontario Hovercraft Limited's board of directors. Hoverlink's hovercraft service will unite families to sporting events, theater, concerts, adult gaming, and one of the natural wonders of the world in 30 minutes, Clemens stated in the release. Kevin, it may be finally the time has come to support this.
Awesome.
Strictly because of what I mentioned, the length of time to get there, the cost of parking, the length of time to get out, the length of time to get home. Maybe this is the solution. And also to go to your point, maybe it's connecting the big smoke with us more easily as well.
Yeah, other than you can't take cars. So people
no,
in
it's
the
not
big
a ferry,
smoke,
it's a hovercraft.
But once they get here, right, when we get to Toronto, there's all kinds of transit infrastructure all around there. When they arrive at the shores of Port Weller, there's... But, Ubers...
Well, there you go.
Ubers,
you start a new business, Kev.
Wine County and stuff like that. So, 48 trips a day using 2 vessels. So, these things are going every half hour, every 20 minutes. Who knows?
40, that's... I hope it works. I really,
so do I.
I really wish
awesome.
them all the success in the world, but it's a pretty gutsy move to have that, because these are the two hovercraft. This hovercraft technology, as they said in there that we just read, like the first of its kind on the continent. So it's like, that's a big investment.
So for what it's worth here, Lee, they say they are having a public consultation event at the Grantham Lions Club on September the 29th. So that's next Thursday night.
Which, of course, is in the community where these things are going to be operating from, Port Weller, Port Dalhousie area, yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So I guess if you have any questions and you want them answered, just show up to Grantham Lions Club there from 6 to 8 p.m.
All right. Want to talk about our sponsors for a moment. We've probably been remiss in not doing so before now. Gales Gas Bars Limited fueling this program almost from its inception, and we're so pleased that you're still on board and waving the flag for us as we'll wave the flag back for you. Fueling Niagara for over 50 years and probably for well more than 50 beyond. And it's always going to be an interesting conversation to see where the petroleum industry goes, but you can count on the fact that Gales will move with the winds of change as they happen and continue to fuel Niagara's mobility. So thank you to Jessica Friesen and your gang for all the support that you show us. Performance Heating and Air, it's been a pleasure to have you on board over the last number of months. And to Mark Shirk and Blake and your staff at Verge Insurance. Kevin, it's been a while. We haven't had a chance to have these folks on in the last while, but they seem to be pleased with what we're doing, and they're just busy folks. So we look forward to, in the not too distant future, having Mark or one of their folks on to tell us a little bit more about what's going on at Verge Insurance Group these days. We do have 2 sponsorships open on this program, and I don't want to go into a really big sales pitch, but I will tell you this. If you would like to sponsor our program, I'll be right up front. It's $150 a week to get what you see Verge Insurance Group, Performance Heating and Air Group right now. All of that exposure over the course of the 1.5 hours that we do live every week, as well as the honorable mentions that we talk about your business over the course of the program, as well as a live in-person interview with you or someone of your choice every 6 months on the program. And Kevin, over the course of a year or so, that results in impressioning more than 2 million people.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some stats right here, Lee, and you're alluding to them, but I mean,
yeah,
year to date,
it's hard to wrap your head around, gang, how the kind of reach this program has. Go, Kev.
Yeah, year to date, 2,366,973 people this program has reached.
That's year to date, gang.
2.3 million. By the time we get to the end of the year, we'll surpass 3 million people in Niagara reached on this show alone. And that's only Facebook. Haven't included the over 30,000 views that we receive on Twitter. And if you're a company owner out there, if you were to just invest in Facebook ads, right? A lot of business owners, I want more of a digital footprint. We need to advertise through socials. If you just went to, okay, how do I buy Facebook ads and have sponsored posts? That would deliver you $13.43. It would cost you $13.43 to reach 1,000 people. On this program, with the $150 sponsorship, you do that for $2.12. $13 if you buy Facebook ads. If you sponsor this show, $2.
So for $10, you've reached 5,000 people. Ask yourself, if you're running a business or you have anything that you would like to promote and throw your cash behind to self-promote, or you know somebody that does, and you say, okay, if you could get 5,000 people to walk through your door or to contact you about your product or service, would you be able to handle it today? If 5,000 people came to your store today, could you handle them? Probably not. But you're sending that message for $2 to 5,000 people, and that's not undervaluing. We could charge more. We could be like the car companies that charge you a whole lot more for their new products than they pay for them. That's okay. And we have to make a profit, so we make a little bit, but at the way we price this, because it's a new product, because it's something that no one else is doing, and truly nobody else is doing this, where it's kind of a trailblazing kind of deal. So, and we've only got 4 spots. Gales is our premier sponsor. Verge Insurance Group is another sponsor that's staying with us for a while. Performance Heating and Air is going to be taking a break to revisit what they're doing, because they've been exposed to those 3 million people already. And I know people that say, "Hey, I can't do it because we're busy right now," and that's awesome. But if you'd like to be busier, like to keep your name out there, by all means, we'd love to chat with you at no cost. And Kevin, it's kudos to you for spearheading this project a few years ago, and again, we've been taking some baby steps with the program, and occasionally, to be honest, I'll say, you know what, we're the best marketing mechanism in Niagara right now. We really are.
Yeah, I truly believe that.
So we should raise our prices, but we don't. And we haven't. And again, we are here in Niagara, for Niagara, by Niagara, and certainly we will sometimes step our toes outside what's happening in Niagara, only because, i.e. the Queen thing, give you that example. Because there are some things that bring people together globally. There are some common denominators of interest that go beyond our boundaries, and we'll deal with those, i.e. the Queen and the incredible impact on our country and the emotion of where we are going forward, and all the politics, the social impact, and all that other stuff. But primarily, we're of Niagara focus. And if your business is the same, chances are it's a pretty decent vehicle for you to consider. Kevin, there was kind of an interesting, actually, speaking of gales, and I hate when this happens because it traumatizes people that work every day for a living. There was a robbery, attempted robbery, and there are multi-dimensions to this story, because there are attempted robberies at retail outlets every day here in Niagara. Let's make no mistake about it. It's something that plagues our society just about everywhere. But this was an attempted robbery at one of the longest standing, I think, Gales gas bars in Niagara, on Ontario Street at Pleasant, was it? Yeah. Not too far from the old GM plant. Now that's sort of the wedge of the story. That's where the story begins, but certainly not where it ends. And Kevin, we were talking about this earlier, and a man has been arrested in connection with that. A break-and-enter investigation results in a search warrant on September 19th in the morning. This is like 20 to 7 in the morning. NRPS officers assigned St. Catharines Feulled responded to a gas station kiosk in the area of Ontario Street and Pleasant Avenue in the city of St. Catharines. Okay, now, and it was a break and enter. Detectives assigned to one district continued the investigation and linked the suspect to 2 additional break and enters and 1 theft investigation. After receiving judicial authorization, detectives executed a search warrant at the suspect's residence and recovered stolen items. And as a result, 31-year-old Raven Tempest of the Garden City has been charged with the following criminal offenses: break and enter, etc., theft under $5,000, failed to comply. Tempest is being held for a bail hearing scheduled to take place on the 20th, which has already happened. Members of the public are all blah, blah, as it says, always invited to offer perspective. Now, Kevin, and again, to the people, to the businesses that were hurt or almost broken into or whatever, our condolences, and we feel for people operating a business, any business, where they're caused trouble. But the crux of this story, and the reason I'm kind of stuttering over it, is I'm looking for the right words. That there's another dimension.
That's a good way to put it.
That's the word I was searching for.
It circles back to what we were talking about the human element, the personal element. And in the comments, Lee, I was really affected emotionally. And you'll see them here, and we'll get to some of them, about people speaking on behalf of Raven and painting the picture of addiction.
Yeah.
Where, some of us, and hey, you might fall into two camps. Some of us feel that, addiction and drug addiction, it's gripping and it's a choice. And other people will say addiction is just like your sexuality. You don't choose it, right? It's you're born with it, and unfortunately, people are addicted. And when you're addicted, it changes who you are, and
some
it changes the person. It's if you're an addict, it could be a good person making bad choices. It's not always a bad person making bad choices.
I don't believe that there are. I guess there probably are now that I do the balancing thing, but I don't believe there is anybody that is 100% intrinsically or cellularly designed as bad. People. We're all combinations of nurture and nature as we go along. That's my opinion, but. Addiction, to go to Kevin's point and to go to some of the points here of these comments, addiction changes people. It's almost like having split personalities. Chantel writes, Rich Walters and I know he's a good man on the inside. He's my brother. I see him every day struggling with addiction and hearing these things that he's doing to innocent people. If he was clean, he would never, ever do any of this. He would give you the shirt off his back in the middle of a blizzard if that meant to keep someone else warm. What a great analogy, a metaphor. Addiction is a known disease. Would you think of someone with cancer the same way as an addict? Probably not, but you should. Cancer kills, and so does addiction. Someone didn't choose to have cancer. Raven didn't choose to struggle with addiction. Cancer has a treatment. Addiction doesn't, except God. I hope for my brother's sake he finds sobriety and lives in a beautiful, clean life, and I pray for him to get better. It's very moving.
And just so you know, I had conversations with Chantel.
Yeah.
We invited her onto the program today. Just really doesn't work out with her schedule, but I wanted to have that conversation for people to understand that in many cases, it's good people making poor decisions. And there's
the demons of addiction, unfortunately, have this hidden underbelly of needing money, because there is the dark side of our society that makes money off other people's addictions, obviously. And where does that money come from? If you're not earning it, if you can't find it, you will look for it and get it any way you can. Hence, trying to break into some place when you're not a career criminal, you're sick. And that doesn't make it any easier for the businesses or the people that are employed in these businesses that are traumatized by these things. So it's a multi-headed monster that we're dealing with. But the concept here, that other dimension that I was talking about, is the fact that, as you said, good people do bad things. Or have bad things happen to them, or they get caught up in bad things, and then things spiral out of their control. And addiction is a terrible, terrible thing. And some people do have addictive personalities. I remember my dad saying to me when he was younger, because he used to be a pretty good pool player in his day. He had a stick in his hand when he was a kid, but he had to stop. And he said, I didn't play again. I didn't do this, and I don't gamble at all, because I know if I placed a bet or gambled on a pool game or something like that, I wouldn't stop. And that's the thing, and that addicts struggle with. It's something. Oh yeah, I can bet on a pony at Fort Erie and have dinner with my friends and have a good time and then go home. Well, I can do that, but some people can't. And that's why you always hear these things of all the casinos and play responsibly and all that. That They have to say that, but it really doesn't cure. But this is the same kind of thing, and it's not easy to control, and you become a different person.
And Lee, the conversation that was taking place in the comments, and if anybody's watching this right now,
such a good dude. Yeah.
I'd encourage you to go and read them, because you don't often get adult, respectful conversations on social media, and it was very much that. And on the other side of it, right, Lee, is that you have to understand that we may say, okay, it's an addict and it's a disease, but there's also victims on the other side that are traumatized. There's people who have their possessions stolen. There's a worker now who's apprehensive of just going to their job every day. So there are consequences to your action.
It's flashbacks and stress and trauma because of an experience that they didn't take on when they got this job. And there is such a deep well of impact by this.
Yeah, and again, you can read through these, and just so many people talking about what a good guy this Raven person is when he's not on drugs. But
he still did a crappy thing.
He did a very crappy. He did a series of crappy things. Another comment says, hey, I know the guy, and here we go. I mean, there you go. Look at what Mikey says.
The Raven I know 10 years ago was a great guy. He worked with me. He's a great man, but now that drugs got him, he's not the same guy no more. I really hope he gets clean. Send him away from St. Catharines to get clean. There are lots of treatments out there for him. I pray for him to change. But therein again lies the rub. You got to want to as well. And we don't know what Raven's state of mind is right now. My uncle suffers from addiction. And no matter what he's tried to make sure his family is number one and happy before his own things. Yeah, he's done things, but he's still my uncle, and he's still loved by everyone in the family. We're all humans. We all have addiction. We all have something that's killing us one way or another. We all make unmarkable things, but they all learn from their mistakes. Love everyone equally. And I guess that's a great sentiment too. We all have things that haunt us. How we treat them, some treat them with drugs, some treat them with alcohol, some treat them with promiscuity, some treat them with dropping out, some treat them with deciding to live on the street. Everybody has their own demon or demons that they deal with. We all do. The hope is, though, that most of us have a loving family around us, and we're relatively capable of dealing with those demons on an intellectual level, so that we can control them and they don't control us. That's all we can hope for, because we all have them. If you can go through life and say, I have absolutely no problems or no issues, or I'm perfectly fine, boy, I don't know who you're lying to, but you're lying to somebody, because none of us are perfectly fine. None of us. So our hearts go out to those people that were affected by Raven's actions. Our hearts also go out to that young man and his family, and hopefully, he sounds like somebody whose family's tried to help him before, Kevin, and he's tried to get out of this this cycle, and it has not yet been successful. Hopefully, it will be successful. Then again, how does law enforcement treat it? Okay, he's an addict. Okay, it's you can rationalize it. You can say he's a good guy when he's not on drugs. But how do you know? So, does the legal system tread too lightly with people that are in this circumstance? To give the devil or due, he committed crimes. That if you or I walked in tomorrow and we weren't addicted, we just needed a couple of fast bucks, we'd be prosecuted.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know how they handle it.
You know what? I think a lot of what we're understanding with humans is it boils down to mental illness, and it's something that we're only recently beginning to identify, and even more recently beginning to treat. And I don't think we quite understand what to do yet.
But Kevin,
it's easy to cast blame, but we haven't really looked or addressed mental illness at the core of a lot of different issues until maybe the last decade or two.
That's true. However, the people that are directly affected negatively by that element of our society, they shouldn't have to suffer that there has to be some compensation or some way to treat those so that we don't have the victims. I mean, the victim of a break and enter, or if somebody gets physically assaulted or something, whatever, the result is they didn't deserve it. That shouldn't happen. There should be something in our society to try to make sure that doesn't happen again. So it's the people that are the victims that get caught between the cause and the system. Somewhere in between, we have to live in that world without fear of harm. How do you do that? So I know it's a rhetorical question. And again, to people that this has been a wide open program, and sometimes I really like these, Kevin, because we can sort of take this wherever the wind blows. The wind's really blowing today too. But
it is.
Everywhere the wind blows. Oh, sorry. Am I supposed to sing Bohemian Rhapsody on this show?
Lee, I got one here.
Sorry, Pierre. Sorry, Justin. Sorry. Wind blows. Yes.
We didn't talk about this, but on the community section,
It doesn't matter to me.
of Niagara 411, here's
Yes.
a post by Matthew Piccarillo. Did you see this one, Fireman's Park, and he showed a video of that giant snake? This one freaked me out. So this is 4 days ago, spotted at Fireman's Park yesterday, don't want this hurting someone. So what is this? I mean, that's freaky,
Now,
man.
Is this a reptile that's native to the Niagara region, or is it one of those
Look at that
invasive
thing.
species?
But look, I don't want to live anywhere where that thing's native, but apparently I do.
That's a pretty snake, Kevin. What have you got
That's a
against
huge-
pretty-looking snakes?
It's a huge snake.
It's a nice-looking snake.
Yeah, it's going to wrap itself around your neck.
Oh, I don't want to get too close to him, but he's very pretty. Look at those markings.
So that's Fireman's Park. What would you do, Lee, if you came up on this in Fireman's Park?
Oh, I'd be so fast the other way. It would make your head snake.
So here,
Oh, no,
so,
I wouldn't hang
of course, to the comments for the answers. And
What a beauty. See? Thank you, Judah. See, it is a beautiful snake.
and somebody, I think, correctly identified this thing as a milk snake or something like
Somebody
that.
said eastern fox snake a little
Yeah,
further
I don't know.
down.
Here we go. We'll go to the top here.
Milk snake?
Yeah, yeah, milk snake, non-venomous. Actually, friendly, curious.
Now, see, I think that's where I would malfunction, because I don't know my snakes very well.
And there you go. There it is right there. An eastern milk snake.
Okay. And then there's a Wikipedia contact or connection if you want to find out more about it. See, now, as I was saying, I don't know my snakes. My biggest fear of snakes is not knowing whether it can hurt me or not. So had I come across that snake, trust me, not too close, because I'm not really a snake lover, if you will. But if I knew enough about snakes, and I knew that was a non-venomous snake, I would have been fascinated, and I would have done that sort of camera thing that this person, and I would have sort of watched it.
I'm getting the heebie-jeebies just looking at it.
Yeah. But not knowing my snakes, I would think maybe this snake could hurt me, and I would go the other way in a hurry. I'm not that brave or stupid that I'm. What a lovely creature, though. And we always think of snakes, always used to anyway, as slimy, and they're not slimy. They look slimy because they're so smooth. They have to be the coolest creature on earth, eh, snakes? Nothing bugs them. They're just kind of hanging out. They're not running away. They're not just kind of hanging out, slithering around. You want to come say hi? Come on up and say hi. I'm just hanging out.
I was watching a special yesterday on the sloth, and I would tend to disagree. There's a cool critter.
That is. Did you happen to see there was a video on Facebook that popped up for me? I don't know why. And there was a sloth in the middle of the road somewhere where sloths are indigenous to what, Australia? Africa?
Zoos, I think.
Anyway, this guy gets out of his SUV and he comes with a blanket because the sloth looked like he was distressed in some way. And he wraps the blanket around this thing and he picks it up and he walks off the road over to a... This is it, Kevin. Watch this. This poor critter, I don't think he really knows how he ended up in the middle of the road. How did you find that so fast? You're brilliant. And then he comes over to a tree and does this. And then the sloth looks back as if to say, hey, thanks. Watch. Thanks, man. You're the best. Thanks, buddy. Isn't that cool? I could watch that stuff. Those are the things that make you feel good about humanity and the place we live. There's so many things that make you feel like you're depressed or, oh my God, where are we headed? And then something like this and those beautiful creatures and something instinctive tells this creature that somebody or something, another species, helped him out. And it's like, hey, thanks, buddy. You're the best. I love it.
Now, Lee,
thanks for finding that, Kevin, because that's the vision that I want.
Spot on. I mean, what a cool critter those sloths are, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
and they are cool. Yeah,
just hanging out in trees,
see, now,
moving slow,
now
never
people,
in a rush.
Because here's something. Because an animal like a sloth has kind of cuddly fur, or a koala bear, or something like that, we're inspired to help them. We don't do the same thing with snakes. If that snake that we just saw a few minutes ago had been covered in nice fur, and it could pet it, I'll bet it would be a whole different reaction.
I bet if it was across the road, it'd be a whole different reaction. Hit the gas. I mean, that's where we'd be.
Okay.
So, Lee, you talk about videos like that kind of reinstilling your faith in humanity.
Yeah.
I didn't.
In Animal Kingdom is at large.
I didn't get a video of this yesterday but I had a confrontation at the Tim Hortons across from the Penn Center yesterday morning. You said, you know what, Kevin, you should talk about it. So, and
we were talking about. I'll go back to mine too. We were talking about pet peeves before the show, and that's how this came up. Yeah, tell us the story, Kev.
So here, I'll show you where I am. And I mean, there's the Penn Center with Highway 406 just to the east. And there you go, the Tim Hortons, it's right by the beer store.
When it comes to humanity this week, it's been the best of times and the worst of times.
It has been.
This is the worst of times.
I go into the Tim Hortons, we're on our way to school. I drive the kids into school, and they go to St. Margaret Bourgeois, which is just around the corner from there. And whenever the kids are early, and they're never early, but whenever they're early, I say, okay, there's enough time to go to Tim Hortons. And this week, hey, it's Smile Cookie. So we went in and we split a Smile Cookie. When we come back out, there's people right here, and see these two cars that are kind of, looks like they've been whited over?
Yeah.
There's people there having a dispute, a rather loud one. And a woman in a truck is not leaning out the window, but the window's open, and she's yelling at the other guy, who just happened to be the customer in front of me in line.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, I got it so far.
You do need the context here that he appears from his look, from his accent, and from his skin tone, that he is an immigrant to Canada from...
Somewhere in the Middle East.
Somewhere in the Middle East.
Okay.
I come out with my two children to this grown adult lady yelling at him. By the way, he's in his vehicle with the window rolled up, yelling at him.
So he was ahead of you in line at Tim Hortons.
Right.
He comes out, you get served, you come out, he is now in his vehicle.
And this lady's yelling at him. So somehow in that time, there was an altercation. I couldn't imagine what it was over. Maybe he parked a little too close. Who knows? It's a tight parking lot. And he got the drive-through line that queues up as well. Anyway, she throws at him and calls him loud enough for me and my children and everybody else around to hear. I don't even know how I can put this. I won't say it. A typical effing P-A-K-I.
Out loud.
Out loud.
For everybody to hear.
For everybody to hear.
Including your children.
Including my children. So at that point, I intervene. And I inform this lady.
Good for you.
Now,
you do this a lot. That's good.
Yeah, like, hey, lady, that language is not acceptable. You should not be using that word. You should not be... I've got children here.
More than either one of those words.
And to that, she used the F word again. And directed it at me. Now, to make things even more bizarre, she dropped, I don't know if there's such a thing as a P word, but I mean, to somebody of Indian descent or Middle East descent, she called him what I would consider to be
a slang.
The most racist of all slangs
for his
in North America for his heritage.
Right.
I don't think of a worse name that you could call somebody, and added an effing typical in front of it. She is a black lady.
Whom you would think would be more sensitive to minority status.
I brought that up. I mentioned to her, she tried to tell me that he started it. There's no way he started it. I saw the guy.
It doesn't matter who started it.
You should never be using that language.
It's still horrible behavior.
It should never get to there. And I asked him, I said, look, you and the driver that she was with, he appeared to have some ethnicity as well, different, but I mean, you can never tell. And I asked him, I said, you appear to have some ethnicity. At which point, he began to open the door, insinuating that he was going to challenge me to a fight. Like, what is going on with humanity? It's 8:55 a.m.
I was going to say, this is not even 9 o'clock in the morning, and there's this kind of hate and anger happening at a Tim Hortons parking lot.
She called me a Karen. I didn't even have time to explain to her that in this scenario, you're the Karen. I'm usually the one holding the camera. And I'm not. That's not where I go. I don't reach for my camera. I just try and at least stop the nonsense. Let this person know that, hey, society is going to stand up for you, pal. If you can't stand up for yourself, society will stand up for you. And let this lady know that that type of language, those words have no place in our society. There's no reason that you should ever be using that language, let alone with children around.
Yeah. For those people that might have been living under a rock, which I could have been accused of because I had not known this phrase, explain to us where this derivation of Karen came from. Because if your name is Karen these days, you're not...
It's tough.
Yeah, it's awful. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how it became...
Where did it come from?
I don't know how it became Karen. I don't know if there was actually anybody named Karen. But this lady is a typical example of a Karen. Is somebody who in a public setting absolutely blows their gasket and starts yelling at other people around, demanding that the world bow at their feet, and using incorrect language. So it's usually viral videos of people in a parking lot at a shopping center, and they're using racial slurs.
I have started speaking out a little bit more because quite often I would just silence is golden. You know, sometimes it's just giving up is the least path of resistance, and it's not worth my time or effort. But I have started to change a little bit in that way, and I have been kind of taking your lead a little bit when I see things that aren't right, and not just in my opinion, just aren't right. And one of my pet peeves is people that always park. Like say you're in a strip mall and you're someplace and there's a big parking lot there, or like a grocery store or something of that nature, and there's people that will park along the curb where there's not supposed to be any parking, when there's a whole whack of parking places a few steps away, and they just sit there. It's not like they leave their car. So maybe they think that no parking means you can't just park it and lock it and walk away. Okay, but that's not what no parking means. No parking means no parking, whether you're in the car or not. And it happened again yesterday, or 2 days ago, sorry. And my wife and I are over on 4th Avenue. We're at an outdoor table at a restaurant over in a strip mall over on 4th Avenue. And this woman is just sitting there, parked in the driving lane of the mall, of the strip mall, and just sitting there, car's off, she's looking at her phone, doing her thing, and like she's at home on her couch. And I watch, and I didn't have the time to engage with her because I'm having dinner with my wife. I'm not going to walk out and like make a real ass out of myself. But Kevin, she was there for 25 minutes. until her, what looked like maybe 10 or 11-year-old daughter came out of another storefront down the thing where she was probably taking a lesson or something like that. But the kicker is that 4 more steps from where she was parked was a legal and quite acceptable parking space for that woman to be in. And if she wanted to protect her daughter to walk over to the car, she could have gone out of the car herself or whatever. And her daughter was old enough to know how to cross traffic, and there wasn't that much traffic. It's just being lazy and inconsiderate and thinking you are special and the rules do not apply to you. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I've done this before. You go into a mall, you go into a Costco, or you go to a grocery store or whatever, and you let your significant other out, and they go in. They're going to be there for a few minutes, so you drive around until you see them, and then when they're there, you can like stop in a hurry and they hop in. I've done that.
That's how you do it.
I've done that.
That's how you do it.
But to actually stop in a place and where you're not supposed to, and you have options to go someplace else. I just don't understand what makes you think you're so entitled.
Well, we need to educate them, Lee. And what I would educate them on is my technique. You drive around. What I try and do is find an empty spot that's facing the entrance of the store.
So you can see.
So I can see.
Then you pull up.
And as long as I can see the entrance, then when my wife comes out the entrance, I can pull up and pick her up, and we're on our way.
But there's just absolutely... and I said to one person one time, "Excuse me, but why are you parked here?" "Oh, well, I'm just waiting." I said, "Whoops." I said, "Well, you could wait right over there."
Yeah, see all those lines on the ground?
And she looked at me like, "Oh, sorry."
Well,
like I had to, and she didn't move.
See, if you and I were there, Lee, what I would do is I would park right behind her, bumper to bumper. You park right in front of her, bumper to bumper.
Yeah,
and then we go in and do our shopping.
That would be fun, eh?
So here, you just want to devolve into chaos?
One day we should go out and just go
together.
Looking for that.
Yeah, and then just park right behind them.
Then,
if you could park here, I could park here, right? We're all allowed to park here. And then
but that is my pet peeve. And here's another thing too. Now we're running out of minutes, but
okay. I got to go throw the outdoor camera up. So you're on this.
Oh, do you? Yeah. All right. Okay. So one of the things I do want to remind you all of is the fact that we have great sponsors that are so patient with us. And like last week, we had to postpone the program because life got in the way. And before that, I had to. Well, I didn't have to, but I did want to go on vacation and took a very interesting trip over to the UK, which at this time in history, I consider myself very lucky to have been able to make that trip and see so many of the highlights. Now, I had been to London before, and to Stonehenge and to Bath and a few of those places. I'd been to Windsor Castle before, but it was a long time ago. And to have my memory refreshed on some of these things and to see some new things as well, including through Wales and Scotland and the southwestern portion of England, like Cornwall and places of that nature, where there is so much history and so many people that love their country. But make no mistake, just to let you know, the people of the United Kingdom are not a whole lot more happy with their government and their tax structure, et cetera, than we are sometimes at home. Imagine if you were, a lot of people here from Niagara will drive into Toronto. Imagine if every time that you drove within the Toronto boundaries, a camera clicked on your license plate and you got a bill for $150. That's what happens in London, England. They are trying so hard to discourage traffic coming in and out of the city. You are immediately taxed the minute your license plate crosses. It's like a toll highway. The minute you come in within the city boundaries, the city limits of London, England, click, you're sent a bill, in and out. And like, whoa! And they also have no pollution zones or whatever. I can't remember exactly what they call them, nucles or something. And if you have if you're driving a gas-powered vehicle within this realm, you're also sent a bill. So it's you think we have taxes here? Whoa! It's nut bar city over there when it comes to driving. You would not want to even own a car. If you lived around London, you would not even want to own a car. Just drive, go in the tube, go in the buses. It's a very efficient system. I'd sell my car in a New York minute if I was over there. It's crazy. Or I wouldn't come into town. There are some people that pay $400 a week, Kevin, just to drive in and out of London to commute. Damn. And that's not including parking. That does not include parking. Here you live in Toronto or you work in Toronto and live here, you got your parking to pay and your gas prices, etc. But there, you've got parking plus maybe $300-400 a week. Like, can you imagine? It's absolutely nuts, and their traffic is gridlocked almost all the time.
You know, I mean, at this point, we're preaching to the converted. The reason we live in Niagara is for that pace of life, so that we're not all burdened with hour and a half commutes every day. That's why we live here.
Gales Gas Bars Limited, thank you for fueling this program. Also, Performance Heating and Air, it's been great to have your support over the months, as well as Verge Insurance Group. Thank you for being with us on a weekly basis. Nick and all of you that are contributors to Niagara 411, it's a pleasure to partner with you on content sharing from time to time. All of the folks that participate here, thanks. Nick's mom, again, hi. Kevin, Jack, it's always a pleasure working with you, and continued success with WeeStream, Canada's premier streaming company. My name is Lee Sterry. Lee Sterry Voice Services is my company. Kevin, what do you have up to play us off the stage today?
We're going to hear an oldie but a goodie from My Son the Hurricane, who are on the main stage at the Grape and Wine Festival last weekend, and Parade Day is coming up this Saturday, but a song called Birthday Cake from Jacob and the Crew.
All right. Thank you once again for being here for episode 35, season number 3 of Niagara 411 Live with Lee Sterry. We'll do it all again next week. And keep in mind what we said right off the top of this program. You needn't suffer in silence. If you are watching this show, if you want to be a part of the show, we are not stopping you, but we're not going to come get you either. You want to be a part of it? Come on in, and you'll have another chance to do so next week. Have yourselves a great weekend. Happy fall.
Let's give it up. Be brave. Self-consciousness is us afraid. Put your hands up.